In the remote mountains of Banaue, where the rice terraces weave through the mist and the night is shrouded in silence, there's a legend that sends chills down the spines of locals. It's the tale of the haunted Banaue bus. But one fateful night, the bus would become infamous for a different reason. That evening, a dense fog began to roll in earlier than usual. It was thick and swirling, almost alive.
Following a shortcut that locals avoided, I drove into the heart of the mist.
The fog wrapped around the bus like a ghostly embrace, reducing visibility to near zero. As the bus moved deeper into the fog, an eerie silence fell. The usual sounds of the night were swallowed by the thick, suffocating mist. The passengers, uneasy but excited for the shortcut, whispered nervously among themselves. The air grew colder and the temperature inside the bus dropped. Suddenly the engine sputtered and died. The bus lurched to a stop. Panic set in as the passengers realized they were trapped.
I tried to restart the engine, but it was no use.
The fog seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy, and shadows began to move outside, undulating in the mist. Then came the whispers. Soft, mournful voices seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere.
Some passengers claimed they saw pale, ghostly figures drifting past the windows. The figures had hollow eyes and sorrowful expressions, their hands reaching out as if begging for help.
One by one, passengers began to disappear.
The elderly woman who had been knitting quietly vanished without a sound.
The young couple, holding hands and trying to comfort each other, were gone in an instant.
Panic turned to terror as more and more passengers were taken by the creeping mist.
Desperate to save his passengers, I got out of the bus to find help. But as I stepped into the fog, the world seemed to shift.
He was enveloped by an unnatural cold, and ghostly figures began to close in around him. He heard his own name whispered by an unseen voice filled with sorrow and despair. Then he too vanished, swallowed by the fog.
Tim.
The next morning, villagers found the bus abandoned on the road, its doors wide open. Inside, the seats were eerily empty, and the air was cold and heavy. There was no sign of the passengers or Mr. Tim. The fog had lifted, but the bus and its passengers had disappeared as if they had been erased from existence. To this day, on foggy nights, locals say the bus still roams the mountains. They claim you can hear its engine sputtering and the mournful cries of the lost passengers echoing through the mist.
Brave, or perhaps foolish travelers who venture onto the old mountain roads often report seeing a ghostly bus drifting through the fog, its windows filled with faces twisted in fear. Legend has it that the bus is cursed, bound to wander the misty mountains forever, eternally searching for its lost passengers.
So if you find yourself in Banaue on a foggy night, remember, never venture onto the mountain roads alone, for you might just hear the distant rumble of the haunted Banaue bus, forever trapped in the fog, waiting for someone to join its ghostly ride. The end.